All right, and just to let everybody know, we are recording this session. What we want is for everybody to feel both safe and welcome, and we'd love for Jane to be able to see your face because it's easier to, I know, to give a presentation, seeing folks laugh at the jokes or cry at the stories or whatever we need to do. But it's also no big deal if you don't, either because you prefer to or because, whatever it is. That's all good. And we do, of course, post the recording for everybody else to see. So just to let you know, that's part of the deal. So with that, let's start. Welcome to the Victoria Metaphysical and Intuitive Development Meetup group. It's also good to see everybody here today on a beautiful sunny day here in just a few clouds in the sky, nice blue skies here in Victoria, British Columbia. And it's so wonderful to have with us for today's show presentation, Jane, who used to live here for 14 years. And just 3 years ago, 3 years ago, I lose track. It was a blur, just like for everybody else. Moved back to Britain and is reporting in from her place outside of London. Now we're going to get started in just a moment, but first, I wanted to let you know this is sponsored by the Spirit of Victoria, which is the directory that lets people know all about metaphysical stuff here in Victoria and all over the world. And Jane's in it, for example. She's the farthest away. We've got a couple of Australians in there, and most everybody, of course, is here on the island. So Spirit of Victoria got all these different categories of folks that you can look up and get a hold of and continue your spiritual journey, whether it's with psychics or people with bodywork sessions or crystals and other retail type things, all here in one place. It includes testimonials and reviews of people. Here's a nice one with Valerie, who's with us today, for example, and Lisa, who's with us today. And it also has the newest members of the Spirit of Victoria community, the last, 24 people to join. And so you get the idea. A lot of people all in one place just for you with the Spirit of Victoria. Also want to let you know that Jane's webpage is lightworkenergy.com, and she'll tell you a little bit more about activities that you can join. A lot of stuff on Zoom these days and the timing and all that sort of thing. But that's just so you have it for your notes. That's Lightwork Energy, which is Jane's webpage. She's also in the Spirit of Victoria under Jane Jackson. Now, I also wanted to let you, the last thing I'd like to let you know is that this event is free. It's completely open to anybody that wants to join. And it's so good to see so many people coming on a beautiful sunny day. Now we are recording today, just to remind you, and if you would prefer to turn your camera off, you can sure do that. Although if you leave it on, that'd be great because then we can see your face. So just to let you know, this will be recorded and made available to other people. Hey, Ash, haven't seen you for a while. Good to see you. And Darlene, good to see you here. So thank you. And Libby, hey, good to see you. Good to have everybody here and glad that you're here. Now, this is a free event. Josie is the manager of all of this stuff, and you can give her a big thumbs up because she does all the work to make sure that we get all this time working together. Yay, Josie. And it is a free event, and we do accept donations. If you want to e-transfer that to her email, which she'll post momentarily, then you'll get the idea that of what to do, and any amount is fine. Keeps us able to pay for a year's worth of Zoom, and we have to pay every 6 months for the meetup. Because we have such a big meetup group, we have to, well, it doesn't really matter about all that. Little stuff we've got to do. If you've got a little extra dough, send it on over. If you don't, you're just as welcome. No problem at all there. Sure glad to have you there. Jane, I think we met back in 2012 or 13 at one of those intuitive fairs here.
I think it must have been Ian, but I can't remember. Now you put me on the spot. I'm like,
No, not at all.
I know we met, it was a while ago.
It's been a while, and I love it because during the time that I've known Jane, we became not just people at fairs, because I go to fairs with the directory and all that stuff too, but also potlucks at her house with just the most interesting people, other healing sessions at her place. I've had readings with her. I've had a couple of past life regressions, which are just amazing. Just beautiful soul to work with, and so glad that you could make it today.
I am so delighted as well. This is great. It's great to see and reconnect, because my soul, you know, it misses Victoria. While I knew that I needed to be back in the UK, I still miss Victoria.
Yeah. And
I miss all of you guys as well. So
well,
there we go.
Well, today you're here in Victoria, so thank you. I'm glad for that. Now, one of the things that we noticed when we ran our test session a couple hours ago was that there is a little bit of a delay, probably because of the international connection. We don't really know. But we did notice the audio is pretty good for Jane. So you'll be able to hear her pretty well. And when we do the PowerPoint show, we have not figured out why or a way to correct it, but her slides are as much as 10 seconds behind what she's saying. She's aware of that, so she'll be given that a little bit of time to make sure that you're seeing what she's talking about best we can. And we just want to let you know we're aware of that. And if you could just allow for that in your enjoyment of the day, that'd be just great. So Jane, today we're going to be talking about sacred sites around the UK.
We are. And what I've done is I've actually chosen places that you really won't know about, because I feel that there's a lot said about Stonehenge, there's a lot said about this and that, but actually I'd like to just introduce you much more to the sites that I see and how to find them and where we're going to find them. So that's the basis of today. So hopefully that's something that is new for you guys.
All right. And if you have any either comments or questions, put them in the chat. Jane will not be looking at the chat because she's doing her show, but we will have a little time for questions and answers at the end.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Let me share the screen. Come on. Okay, and then I need to begin. I thought this was where it's Ian. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I'm hoping the first thing you can see is Sacred Sites of England. What I really wanted to talk to you about is how we recognize the sites and why the sites have got put in the places that they are. So we're going to go through the importance of the land, what happens over time, when we go into a site, how do we behave, and when to actually go and visit the sites. So, come on. Okay, this is where I've got to wait for you guys, because I don't think what you should be looking at is some bluebells. Can you tell me, do me some nodding or thumbs up when you see bluebells?
Okay, we're almost there. It hasn't started just yet. And if it takes the 8 or so seconds, there we go. They're there.
Okay, so when we talk about the land, and the ancients thought very much in terms of the land and the land system. And it was the most important part of this. So the land told them where to put things, how to put things. And sacred sites are not just the buildings. they are the land, they are the trees, they are all, like, just looking at these bluebells. This, when we go quietly inside ourselves, is something that's absolutely sacred. And it will connect in with our energies and our intuition. And it is much easier to find our intuition when we're out in nature, I find. And I think a lot of people do. And we can forget that in our hurly-burly world of rushing around and being busy, is that we need to connect in with nature. So that's the first bit. I'm going to change slides now. Okay. England has a lot of ley lines. And what we're going to look at is two in particular. So this is the Belinus line, which is called the Spine of Albion. And this is, Albion is the oldest name for England that we have. So it runs right the way down. Let me see if I can get my, there's my little mouse. And if you go here to the Isle of Wight, sadly, the Isle of Wight had a lot of Neolithic monuments on it, but they've all been taken away and we've lost a lot of the sites. And this is an interesting one, because when you look at it, we have things like Birmingham on this line, which is very industrial. There's a lot of places along here that have developed industrial stuff, which was significant for us moving forward in technology. But it means that some of the other things also got lost along the way. But we also have, and I'm going to come back to Uffington down here and the White Horse at Uffington, and also Winchester. So this shows an energy line that you can feel, but you have to give it time. And if you're stuck in the middle of Manchester, it's not that easy to find it. If you're stuck in the middle of Birmingham, it's not. If you get to the White Horse at Uffington, it's a whole different kettle of fish. So that's the first line that I wanted to show you. Okay. Now I'm clicking to the next one, so we've got to wait the 10 seconds.
All right, it's showing.
Okay, now this is labeled as the Michael alignment. It's also known as the Mary alignment, but this was the best picture I could find of it to demonstrate it with you. And when you look at this, this is an energy line that runs up from down at the bottom in Cornwall, down here where the point is and Land's End, and then it comes all the way up through to East Anglia. And I am really lucky on this occasion. I'm actually living somewhere around there-ish. So I'm on the line again. But we have sacred circles on this line, and we have important, significant places. So I'm going to show you Avebury in a minute, which is a lovely place. But there's lots of energy around this. So this is one of those places where you find a lot of ancient hill forts, a lot of ancient monuments, all of that kind of thing, because back in Neolithic times, they worked far more with the energies. You know, they would follow the water, because they'd look at the water and they'd say, this is what gives us life. And they'd follow the water, and they'd follow and put things where they needed to be when they were significant for us. So that's the first thing to say about the ley lines. And at the end of it, what we'll do is we'll go on and you can ask me some more questions about the ley lines and that kind of thing. One of the things I also wanted to talk to was about land and buildings and what happens when we put a building in a sacred site. So I'm hoping you've got that.
Yep, it's good.
That up thing. Cool, lovely. Because when we have buildings that are sacred in the nature, then they will often stay very sacred. So let's have a look at some of these. Let's have a look at a couple. Okay, this is Winchester Cathedral. This is on the line that I first showed you. The ley line, and the nave runs right the way through the ley line. This is a building that it is sacred, and it doesn't matter whether you're religious or you're not religious. It is a building that people walk into, and they walk in with reverence. One of the difficulties, and I haven't gone into Stonehenge, and one of the problems with Stonehenge is when you get there, people are only going because it's as old as it is, it's a UNESCO site, and they're not particularly interested necessarily in the sacredness of it. And the energy gets very pulled apart. So if you can get into Stonehenge first thing in the morning, I believe that is the time to go. But at other times of the day, it's not somewhere that you can sit and go into yourself and stick with the intuition. So I'd really recommend, whenever you're looking for an ancient site, whenever you're looking for the land, you want some peace and quiet, because you need to go inside and just channel into that peace and that space. So here's Winchester Cathedral, beautiful cathedral, and I'm going to show you a picture of the inside. While we're waiting for that, we had a guy called St. Swithin, and this is a long time ago, but in July, and the story goes, and the story is old, so it's about 1,000 years old, so it's kind of more myth and legend. But the story goes that when St. Swithin died, and he was a very humble man, he wanted to be buried outside with the poor people. So they had the cathedral, they had the inside of it, and he said he needed the rain to fall upon him, and he needed people to walk past him. The church then said, oh, we're going to change this all, and we think St. Swithin is very important, so we're going to bring him into the cathedral. They did that. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. So the saying is that if it rains on St. Swithin's Day, which I believe is the 15th of July, it's going to keep on raining. I believe the story that I've heard is that he was then taken back out, and that's when the weather cleared up. So that's just a little piece. Now, Winchester Cathedral has an absolutely lovely energy, and there are other cathedrals that are as magnificent, and I can promise you they just don't have the same level of energy as when you walk into Winchester Cathedral. So there's a quick picture of Winchester Cathedral, and it is very, very beautiful. Now let's look at some smaller churches here. This is one in Blueberry. And Blueberry was in Oxford, and it is one of my most favourite little places. Blueberry as a village the houses went up when we had horse and cart. So once you start walking through the centre of the village, then all there are is little pathways. You can't get very well. You can't get cars down there. You can't get anything down there. And this church was around when they did the Domesday Book, and the Domesday Book in 1086. That time they had 111 people living in Blueberry. And again, this is a very special place. And when you look at it, the energy of the place is absolutely magnificent. It's got a yew tree in there that's about 500 years old. And yew trees are one of our oldest living trees. And they have a significant energy when you get a chance to actually be with yew trees. The yew also, people will say that they put them into graveyards because they kept cows away. I don't believe they kept cows away, but a yew was seen as the way into the other world, into the underworld. So it was a connection, it was a spiritual connection you could get with the yew tree. Now, here in this little church in Blueberry, the little entranceway there, it'll be about 500 years old. It's oak, the door's oak. The actual church, let me see if I've got the date for the church, because I did think I put the date on. So yeah, it was a Saxon church and then it was rebuilt later on that. And there's another view of it, so you can see a little bit more. And actually that's just the branches at the top there. That's the branches from the yew tree, and that's yew as well. And yew was very, very significant because it was used for making bows and arrows. It's a beautiful, beautiful tree. Okay, this is the inside. Now I can promise you, if you ever get to England and you get to this little church, you can cut the energy with a knife. It just feels absolutely beautiful there. And a part of that is because a lot of the Christian churches that we have were built on the old pagan sites. So the pagans knew where the energy was. That's when they started working with it in those places. And then as Christianity came through, it started just taking over the sites. And that's why we get this combination of things. And it's not something that's terrible. It's just one of those things that happens. What I am delighted to say is, and I'll show you Avebury Stone Circle, but Avebury Stone Circle has a church in it, and they also have pagan ceremonies at the same time. So at Christmas and various events, you get both the Christianity and you get the pagan stuff, which is a lovely, lovely combination on that. So we're now going to move off to Scotland, and we're starting with the Scotland because there's now evidence, archaeological evidence, that the Ring of Brodgar actually predates Stonehenge. And what happened is that it's looking as if it was about 500 years previously. So very often when we talk about things, you know, we can say they're 500 years, but if you look at that, it's like us going back to Tudor times and King Henry VIII, if we go back 500 years. It's also very interesting is that when they started building it, the weather was much nicer up there. So whereas Scotland tends to be a little on the chilly side, a little on the rainy side, a little on the cold side, it was actually much warmer and much more clement on that. Now, so this is the Ring of Brodgar, and let's say it predates Stonehenge, so it's very, very significant. So let's go on to the next one. You'll see the picture in a minute. The circle originally had 60 stones in it, so it was significant. There's 27 remaining from that. Now, in terms of height, those stones were from 7 foot high to 15 foot high. So that's about 2 meters 10 to about 4 meters 70. And the diameter of the circle is 110 meters. So that's more than a football pitch. So when you think about this, this was absolutely incredible. It's incredible that they moved the stones. It's incredible that they were there. And for me, when I stand in a stone circle, the energy is absolutely phenomenal. It just hits me left, right, and center. So whenever you're looking for anything sacred, what you want to be doing is tuning into yourselves and seeing what resonates with you. And what's the best way for you to find sacred sites? Because there's sacred sites in Victoria. One of my favorite places was Mystic Vale. I'm walking through the energy in that. I was just sent, and I always loved it. Another place that you've got locally is Avatar Grove up in Port Renfrew. The trees there are absolutely beautiful and they're magnificent. And again, it's more about the land. So when we put these stones on there, the stones are significant, and they're significant because they're all sorts of shapes, and that's significant, that's important, because the ancient people considered life as not being perfect. So the stones weren't perfect. They would represent something that was important to us and significant to us, but they weren't necessarily perfect. I mean, the Ring of Brodgar, you look at the stones and they're flat because of the rock that was there. But we're going to look at some more stone circles and they're just all totally different shapes. So I'm going to switch it over now. And we're going to have another view of the stones, so you can just see them going around. It's really difficult. We need, I need some more drone footage, basically, so that we can look at them from above, because they are just magnificent and incredibly tall. So that's another picture of Scotland, and that's a lovely picture of Scotland without any rain. Not saying that there's always rain in Scotland, but I do live in the south for certain reasons. So there you go on that. Okay, right, I'm going to go to the next one. It's gone out of order. My apologies. First mistake. I am going to now tell you about Avebury Stone Circle, and then you'll see another Ring of Brodgar in a minute because it's somewhere else. So Avebury Stone Circle, it's probably about 40-minute drive from Stonehenge. It has got to be one of the largest. There's the Ring of Brodgar. Okay, so now we're going to wait for a few minutes and then back to Avebury Stone Circle. So that's your preview, that you know what's coming up next. So you can see the circle. You can see that it's absolutely massive. That's the size of an American football pitch. So that'll give you an idea of it. Okay. Now there's Avebury. One of the difficulties, because I'm an absolute lover of stone circles, and one of the tragedies is that we have carved roads through it, and people have misunderstood. They've misunderstood the significance of this. Ireland and Newgrange is very, very lucky, because when the Catholics came in, they had the Catholics, but they also kept the ancient stuff. And for England, they didn't understand it. England started taking some of the stones away because they wanted to reuse them. And there's one stone called the Barber's Stone, and basically what happened is they started to move it, and it fell over and it squashed somebody, and he was a barber. And we know this because when they lifted the stone, he had scissors and combs in his pocket. So this is Avebury, but still has a lovely energy to it. It is still worth seeing. And one of the lovely things about Avebury is that you can go right up to the stones and you can stand with the stones. When you're in Stonehenge, and I understand why they did it, because a lot of people were graffitiing the stones, and that was one of the problems with it. But Avebury hasn't been graffitied as much. It's not gone through that. And what we have is we have this large circle that would have gone round, and I'll show you another picture with some smaller circles in it, and they would have been part of it. And then what we have here also is the henge, and originally that would have gone down an awful long way. So when they were there, they would have needed ladders in order to get down it, and then they'd have got to the other side, and then they'd have done ceremony within that. But it would have kept out all those people that they didn't want to have in the circle at the time. So back when they were doing it, they weren't called Druids because it was before they'd actually created the name, but there would have been equivalent to, it would have been a spiritual place. It would have been connecting in with nature. It would have been doing earth magic that they would have been there for. So here you go. This is a picture of where they believe the stones would have been and what would have been around them. Let's see if I've got. No, I'm sorry, I can't remember. And down here at the bottom is what's called the avenue. So you walked up, you had these two large stones here and other stones, and this is a representation. This is an early representation, and it's not quite perfectly done, but it was a good one to see. Okay, these are absolutely enormous. These stones basically weigh as much as a jumbo jet. So how they put them there, how they got them there, it really isn't known on that. But just have a look and just have a feel for the energy there and see if you can connect to it. And these stones have got both masculine and feminine energy. And you find a lot of the stones around Avebury is that it appears that we move from a very masculine stone to a very feminine stone on its energy. And they've also done research and they've looked at the energy field within it. And it does appear that there's whether it's a magnetic force or whatever it is, but we hold on to it for a period of time. So this was a very gentle place in many respects and a very powerful place, because when you look at nature, it can be very gentle, can be very smooth and very quiet, and yet it's still got the volcanoes going as well. This is part of everything. This is who we are and what we are. Some days we can be quiet and connected into the earth, and then other days we're just filled up with the fire. So it's very different, and it's very different for other people. And it's, again, this is a site that if you can go on quite a cold, wet day when there aren't any kids, when the kids are out back at school, then it's absolutely lovely because you don't have anybody else there. But well recommend Avebury. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, we're going to move on to Stratton Stone Circle. Now, Stratton is just outside of Bristol. So Bristol it's above Cornwall and it's on the west side. It's just below Bristol. It's just below Wales. Probably the easiest thing I can suggest. One of the greatest tragedies historically is that apparently the people of Bristol were unhappy with the local tribes, and they were the ones that sent to Rome and asked the Romans to come to England, and the Romans just came in and decimated all of our ancient ways and our connection with nature. They were there, England, the Romans. So the Romans first came over, Caesar came over. He said that he conquered, but he didn't do very well and he disappeared. But another, and I think it was, no, I'm going to have some apologies, I can't remember the guy's name, but he came in, and when he came in, then they started building all the roads. And the Romans always needed to build straight roads because it was efficient, it was quick, and our intuition was much more about you follow the way of the land. You don't go in a straight line somewhere. You follow what the energy says. And the Romans were here for about 35 years before they went for the Druids over in Anglesey. And that was like the last stand of the Druids there, sadly. So this circle is one of the biggest circles. There's not a lot left of it, but it is a very beautiful stone circle as well. So let's get some more pictures up. We also
just a real quick question.
Yeah.
Have they figured out the stones are there? Donna asked a question. Have they figured out where the stones at the end of the day come from? Are they from that area, or were they transported from much further away, or do they even know?
Okay, so Things like Orkney in Scotland, they were fairly local. Stonehenge, the blue stones in the middle of the circle, they were definitely from Wales.
Wow.
The rollright stones are a limestone, and they were much more local. And I think that these ones would also have been local.
Wow. So getting them somehow from Wales to where they are. Wow.
It's a long way. It is, and you have to wonder whether they couldn't just levitate them across. You know, and maybe they had a nice levitation little thing going on, and they got them that way. Because I'm not sure that they actually rode them across, because back in those days, England was forested. And you look at it and you go, well, you can put them on this and you can pull them across here. Yes, if there's not lots of trees around, you can. So
Yeah.
it's still there. So this is Staton Drew, and we let the cows go in there. So basically we get some holy shit from there, because we need some holy shit. So there we go. Okay, this is another couple of the pictures from there. I didn't take the cows. I didn't want the cows at the time, but there's a couple from the cows. Oh, sorry, that was probably too fast. Okay, let me do my counting again.
Seeing the Druids at Arms? The Druids Arms?
Excellent, that's perfect. So this is where our worlds encroach on each other. The stone circles and the meanings behind the stone circles got lost. So this one, and I went into the Druids' Arms and I asked, how long it had been there, and they kind of just went, oh, it's always been called the Druids' Arms. But when you go back into the beer garden in the Druids' Arms, then you get something quite magical. Because here's the beer garden, and there's part of the stone circle. So we've just got to the point where we didn't see a lot of the stone circles as sacred, so we just built things around them. And it's just one of those things. Okay, let's come on to the next. Okay, White Horse at Uffington. Now let's have a little look at it. Hang on. Okay, so White Horse at Uffington. It is about 110 meters long, about 360 meters long. It's about 3,000 years old, and every year nowadays, and it's been kept this way. So what you can see is the chalk. So this is on the hillside. The chalk's underneath, and then you've got maybe a foot of actual soil. So for like 3,000 years, this has been kept, we believe, has been shown. So people have come up and they've tended it, because if you don't start tending it, the grass would grow over, it would disappear. And in fact, each year you can go up there and you can help re-chalk it. So you stand there and you get a hammer and they give you a bucket of chalk, and then you pound it in as well. And that's part of the conservation of the White Horse. The next thing that's very interesting, though, is that for some people, it's not a horse at all. And actually it's a dragon. And as we look at this, you have to think about it. And here's Ancient Man, and they really drew the horse in the landscape. So the landscape decided what was going to be here. And when you look at the face on the horse, it doesn't look at all like a horse. The rest of it is a very lovely representation and could easily be a horse. But there's a lot of dragon energy. And poor old dragons have had a very bad reputation in many places, in many areas. But they're a very magical beast, and they've been around. they've been around. So that's Uffington and the White Horse. I am just going to switch on my light. So excuse me for a second. I'll be back in a minute.
No problem.
Okay. Hopefully that might make me a little clearer again.
Oh, there you are. Yeah. Yeah, that can see you a little better now.
Yeah, exactly. Otherwise, you know, by the end of this conversation, all you'll see is black and I'll disappear into the background. Okay.
Because the
So,
sun's going down right now, right?
It truly is. It truly is, yeah. So Wayland Smithy, Long Barrow. Now, that's interesting. Why is it? Oh, here we go. Okay. So we've got Uffington White Horse. About 2 miles walk, no, less than that, 1.5 miles walk the other way is Wayland Smithy. That was a long barrow. And we do have people buried in the long barrows. But this is just a lovely magical place. We also have near Uffington is the Blowing Stone. And King Alfred the Great, who's a significant king, who's really helped to connect people and bring England together very much. And it is said that with the Blowing Stone, it's a stone and it's got a hole in the center, is that he blew through it and that called everybody to war. So it was a natural hole that was in the stone. I should have got a picture of that. My apologies, I haven't got you a photograph of that. But I wonder on this, and people have tried talking through it and think that it's going to provide a megaphone or something like that. And I think it was actually a psychic thing. I think it was telepathic when they had the Blowing Stone, and they brought people together. So there's another view of it. But again, it's a magical place, and you just need to very quietly walk in there and be with nature and see what you feel. Okay, West Kennet Long Barrow. Now this is a site that is only probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles from Avebury Circle, built around the same kind of time. Let me just get my notes because I'll just remember. Okay, length, it's 104 meters in length. It's about 25 meters wide, and it rises up about 3 meters. So it's absolutely beautiful on the landscape, and I've been there and done ceremony on the full moon with this place. It's very interesting because when you look at all this green, when it was originally built, it would have been built with the chalk that was around, and that would have made it white. So it would have stood out in the landscape. It's also very much considered that this was like, basically that this was a phallus, and that this was the divine feminine down here on the rock in the center there, and you went into the divine feminine. So it was a very spiritual place. And the pagans, the druids, would think of sexual energy as something that they connected with the earth. They connected with the female and the energy, and they connected with the seasons, they connected with the life and death cycle of the world, and bringing into life was very, very significant for them. So I'm going to show you a picture in another picture outside on that, and then this is inside. So this has been lit for the photograph, so you can really see it beautifully. They found a couple of fetuses, and they wondered whether this was somewhere to for women to give birth, possibly. One of the interesting things is that back in the Neolithic time, there was 15 hallucinogenic plants in England. So if women wanted some pain relief, it was available. And they didn't necessarily give birth without it. But we just have to look at this. So it was an enclosed space. This piece here, whenever I walk in and I touch this, my hand just wants to stay there forever. I can easily stand there for like 15-20 minutes. So I'm in there going, please don't let anybody else arrive, please keep them out, so I can just really enjoy it. But it's got a beautiful, beautiful energy. Okay, all right, so that's kind of the historical circles. What I wanted to bring you back to date with is that England is still making stone circles, and there were a number of stone circles that went up when we had the millennium. And while things need time to mature, things need time to really resonate, still the new stuff can have a phenomenal effect. This was in Didcot, which again is an Oxfordshire place, and it's just down the road from Blueberry. And this was the forest that was put in there. And whenever I'd need to kind of relax and recharge myself, I'd come there and the stones would just do it for me. So it doesn't always have to be an old place, but this is also still on a ley line. It's very close to a ley line if it's not on the ley line. The stones have got a lovely energy, and again, they're misshapen, they're just natural, and they were chosen, and the lovely lady that did this and chose the stones for them was a lovely psychic woman, and she got told what to put where. So new or old, we can always create sacred sites, we can always create sacred places. And this is the point where I then open it up to questions. So I'm gonna stop the slideshow now, because I think that might help our connection and might make it a bit faster. I'll come back, she says. Okay.
Hi, Jane, we've got a few questions from different folks.
Yep, sure.
One of the questions is, why are in your experience and your sense of things, why are the stones placed on edge? Does that amplify the energy from them? This is from Ash. Can you detect less energy coming from the ones that are lying down?
You know what? It's very interesting. I think very often the stones are rather like crystals. If you pick up certain crystals on certain days, you will resonate with them much more. And when you go into the stone circles, you will resonate at different times in different ways. Why they chose to put them in this shape or that format was just, I think, down to their intuition. The Ring of Brodgar, and I haven't been there yet. I show it to you because it's the oldest, and it's almost like the father of everything else that then came. But when you do get a large stone, it does feel like it's got significantly more energy to it. But it's about where we're at and when we connecting with different stones and needing different stones at different times. So the energy will resonate. Sometimes you walk in there and a small stone will resonate and it will be absolutely the right one to be with. And then other times you want a larger stone. So.
All right. Amber and was wondering your sense of things. We've got an action right now in British Columbia, in southern British Columbia, because there's some folks that want a forestry company that wants to cut down old growth over in Avatar Grove.
Oh,
Do you have a sense that,
that is,
yeah, it's called Teal Jones, and that's something that's going on right now. Without getting into the action of it all, with the energy of it all, if that old growth is destroyed, do you have a sense that the energy, or to what extent would the energy be changed related to its relationship to ley lines or to just overall energy? Do you have a sense of that?
what seems to happen when I've seen it in England, if I take Bath, for example, Bath would have been an ancient place before the Georgian Square. Bath was known, it was known as a sacred site because it had hot water coming out of it, and nowhere else did you get hot water. When you look at, and you get the hot water because it goes down through the Mendip Hills, it goes down 2 kilometers, and the heat of the earth is what warms up the water. So it was always known for that, and it would have been a sacred site. It's had, around the Roman baths and that, they found 1,000 flints in where the water was. They excavated. You don't usually get shown the 1,000 flints, but there's 1,000 flints. So it would have been something that they would have, it would have been an offering. It would have been an offering to the water, to the understanding of the water. And when you look at Bath now, a lot of that energy is just deadened. So it's a very beautiful Georgian Edwardian city, and it's very fantastic to go and look at it on those parts. But what seems to happen is the energy loses a lot of its potency, and it gets pushed down. And this is why I say Stonehenge is like this, because people aren't going in because they see it as sacred. They're going in because they want to see Stonehenge, which is fine. It's one of those things. But that was never the reason behind Stonehenge. This was much more sacred. So I'm absolutely gutted to hear that they want to do that, because that is an absolute tragedy. I think that the energy will be there, but you can't just go in and replace a tree that's 1,000 years old. So if you can get up there sooner rather than later, do go and visit it if you haven't visited Avatar Grove, because it's absolutely fantastic. It's also where we find fairies. You know, when we've got the old trees, when we've got the old energies, that's where we find the fairies and the elementals. That's where they're happiest to be. So if we take that away from them, then it's very sad.
Well, I think there's a lot of people that are going to, right, just to let you know and up to date, do what they can to keep that from happening. So to keep them from being destroyed. So I think we're on the right track there in terms of people's hearts about that. Lisa, you saw, not to put you on the spot or anything, but Lisa works with dragon energy, Jane. And I guess I know we're supposed to get questions from them, but I want to ask her, when you saw the white horse, you know, from the sky, there it is, been there for hundreds of years, sometimes thought of as a dragon. Did you have any feeling or sense of anything that was going on there?
I honestly felt more dragon energy than I did feel horse energy for that particular site. What was interesting is, as we were looking at it, I felt the energy actually come in from the left-hand side of the screen and overlay over top of the image, the outline there. And it, because of how I see things, I actually saw how it transformed from a horse into a dragon. It was really quite cool. And I said to Russ, as we were seeing that, I said, I have to go there.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you should. Definitely. Come and visit. Come and visit. And also, there's a lot of dragon energy around Avebury as well. Round one of the henges, round the edge, it's called the Dragon's Back. So put it on your bucket list and get over here, Lisa, when you can.
As soon as we can travel.
Yep.
Looking good. Well, speaking of that, Victoria was wondering if there's any less known sacred places in London proper, and she maybe along a smaller key line, ley line, or are there other sacred places in London proper that come to mind right away? Not just so we can get our bucket list ready to go here.
Yeah, there are, I am sure, and I haven't spent a lot of time looking at the energies in London, because while I love London dearly and I go for different reasons, what's interesting about London, okay, if you take from London over to Cardiff in Wales and then up through to Scotland, you get a right angle triangle. And I'm trying to think, I think it's Edinburgh it goes into, which is very significant for places. But there's nothing that I can think of. My apologies, I'm sure that there are lots of things in London, but I haven't necessarily explored them.
Okay, then what we'll do is before we come over, we're going to check and get our tourist thing together. Now,
Absolutely.
now Maggie says that she's been to the Ring of Brodgar and it was absolutely beautiful. And Ash had a quick little question related to the Brodgar picture, which had the lines running through it. Is there any significance to that?
Sorry, which one was that? You had the Ring of Brodgar.
Let me get I'm sorry. He said, what are the lines crossing the Ring of Brodgar? Are they significant?
I'm going to have to look at the picture again. I'm going to see if I can get to it. Hang on.
Okay.
Oh, they're shadows. They're
Okay.
just shadows.
Okay, so no,
I believe.
the significance is the sun's going down or coming up or something.
Yeah, the significance is that it's sunny in Scotland. And I tongue in cheek, I shouldn't be, because Scotland is absolutely beautiful and it's a magnificent place and I love it to bits and I need to get up there. But those lines are just the shadows at the moment.
Meanwhile, Gaynor has a quick question, and I was wondering if she could unmute first. And Gaynor, what's going on?
Hi there. Hi, Jane, and everyone there.
Gaynor.
Lovely to hear you speak. I've been doing some research on just history, I guess, of where I was born and where my family came from, which was in the Ipswich area. And I wonder,
Okay, cool.
Pardon me? Sorry, go ahead.
Lovely. Carry on.
Okay.
Carry on.
I'm wondering, I don't know if I'll be able to go back or not, but I'm wondering if it's okay, or is there benefit to, like, can you name someplace near that area that would be on a ley line that I might be able to just tune into from here and just kind of
Okay.
reroute myself there, and also I guess amplify some of my own, familial energy as well.
Brilliant. Okay, quick question for you, Gaynor. Any witches in your family?
Both my siblings, my mother and her mother, and going back, I don't know.
Okay. That was the first thing that came through, was think about the witches in England and connect into that ancient magic, because they understood the woods, they understood all of the herbs, and you've got a part of that in your lineage anyway.
Sorry.
In terms of In terms of the ley line, then it's the one going through Bury St Edmunds would be the closest one for you.
Barrington,
Bury St Edmunds.
Barrington Edmonds.
We'll get it for you, and I will get the correct spelling because I'm terrible on spelling. But I think it's, no, I'm not even going to bother at this moment, Gaynor. My spelling is terrible. It is Bury St Edmunds, and we will get that information to you after we finish this. And Ian is much better at spelling, so we have no, or Josie, we have no problems with getting you the correct spelling and where it is. And I will get you the name of a book, and actually Ian can send it out to everybody, that talks about the Michael Mary line, which would go up through and be the closest thing in Ipswich for you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Pleasure, pleasure.
And Josie and Lisa both put Bury St Edmunds in the chat.
Thank you. Look at that. You see, that's the place.
Jill, how you doing? Jill, could you unmute for just a second? I'm totally putting you on the spot here without telling you ahead of time, but you have the most beautiful picture behind you. Would you mind setting things up? Can you see it?
I just about can. That's looking like the white horse or the white dragon.
It is the African horse. I painted it about 2 months ago. I've never been there, but I've seen it on television and I just fell in love with it. And someday to get back over there to actually see it.
So you Jill, come more right in front of the thing because your audio will be better. Sorry to mess up the picture. And you painted that 2 months ago.
Yes. And I just took up painting about 3 months ago.
You were knocking it down. Hey,
Wonderful.
now, Jill, why did you choose the white horse to be one of your first paintings?
I don't know. I've seen it on television and on the internet, and it just really touched me. I thought it was beautiful, and I love the story of it. And yeah, I hope to get there someday, maybe in a couple of years when we're able to travel again.
Yeah, but just so cool to have you have that and come to the show when way to work it in. It's just great. Well, you know, it's been so awesome hearing from everybody today, and so wonderful to hear. You know, I'm not going to say from the horse's mouth with this horse picture going, but it really is nice to hear not just about this, but from somebody from England right there on the scenes. One last quick question, Jane, and this might be a little too amorphous, but just if you're interested in your response. You go to these places, you mentioned you go there and you recharged, you go there and you just can feel it. It's so thick you can cut it with a knife. Pretend not that we're lay lines, but we're lay people. That's a joke. But what does that feel like? Is it, and that's kind of, again, putting you on the spot perhaps, but what is it like? I mean, does it feel like going into a freezer and you can feel that it's cold? You go into a summer day out of the air conditioning and you can just feel that kind of energy. What's it like going to get recharged, to be in one of the churches?
Okay, think of your favorite place, and all of us have different places. Think of the peace when you hit the beach and it just takes your breath away. Anywhere that you go, that's the same kind of energy. That's the energy that we're looking to find in our souls. You know, for some people, it's when you go to see the trees. If I said to Josie, what's your favorite? It would be the whales. And you know, it's just the kind of thing that brings a smile to your face, because you walk in and it's like, yeah, this feels comfortable. This feels Right, there's no effort to it. It's something kind of bigger than me. And that's the lovely thing about sacred sites. And it's not the sacred sites that, because, you know, some travel thing says this is a sacred site and this is absolutely wonderful. It's what your energy resonates with. And if you look at it, and if you're really into the stone circles and your energy really resonates with them, then my suggestion is that, you know, in a past life, you were there with the stones and you've been there before. It's not something new, it's something comfortable, it's something magical that just wafts in. But we all resonate at different levels, we all resonate with different pieces, and we just need to find wherever it is. And as I say, Victoria's got some absolutely beautiful places, and beautiful magic. So that's kind of where we're at on that. that would be my answer. I hope that's helpful.
That's beautiful and wonderfully expressed. Jane, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. And I'm gonna, over in the chat is Jane's webpage. If you're looking for it, I'm just reposting it in case you missed it from before.
Oh, lovely, thank you.
I want to make sure that you see that. We've got interesting times here, interesting times ahead. Thank you so much for being here today. If you all don't mind, unmute for just a second and let's give her a hand, eh? Don't worry that the audio will.
That's okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for turning up. Thank you for coming out on a day when it's all sunny and coming to listen to me.
Well, I think you've helped make the day that much more sunny.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Appreciate it.
Oh, I can't hear him now. Where did he go?
Well, thank you again. Remember the donation if that's up at the first. Thank you, Maggie. Sure, we appreciate your noticing that we. And thank you, Josie, for all the work you do to help pull the show together. Hope all of you have.
Thank you.
Hope you all have a wonderful day. The rest of the day. Remember to love each other. Be kind. Stay safe. You know, take it easy with each other. And let's continue to get together like this because it's so nice to be together. Not just these times, but with what Jane has to share. Hope you have a great day and remember to love each other. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Jane, we usually hang out with Donna for a moment after we're done.
That sounds lovely. That sounds, it's like 3 years, Donna, since we've seen each other. So that's absolutely great.
Yeah.
I love your artwork, Donna. I think it's just gotten better and better.
Oh, thanks so much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. Jane and I had gone to Avatar Grove. That's the only time I've been there was with you.
You need to get back there, Donna. You need to get back there.
You got to get through a big line of protesters, RCMP, and a few others if you go this week.
Oh no, that's terrible.
It is terrible.
I need to, well, I'm glad to know, because I will write to, I will see what I can do in terms of writing letters and things and stuff, so.
Yeah. Hmm.
I don't know that Fairy Creek is the one that's, anyway, it's crazy to think that we got to fight to save our government, to save the environment. You know, I mean, we got
I know.
other people to fight, but fight our own government to, wow. Yeah. Jane,
Yeah.
how did you
England still has the same thing.
with some mistakes? Jane, how did you feel like it went?
Well, I enjoyed that. Whether I was any good or not, I haven't got the foggiest idea, but I hope that